everybody. Welcome to Navigating Virtual Career Fairs with the Business Career Center. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Sherry, and I'm going to be with you for the next 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long it takes us to get through all of the information. I know this year is going to look a little different on all of the career fairs that we're having within SMEAL and at Penn State. So we're excited to be able to host this virtual session to make sure all of you feel really comfortable in navigating that virtual world. So a lot of this presentation is going to be a combination of getting ready for career fairs in general. A lot of that information does stay similar, but then also tying in a lot of the virtual components of where you need to go, how that event is going to look. So I do want to make sure that if there are any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to utilize the question and answer feature. I would recommend using the question answer feature over the chat feature, as if you pose it as a question answer, everyone can see the question. You can put it up as anonymous if you don't necessarily want to showcase it's from you. But if it is put up on the question answer, you can kind of see that question. So if other people had that question, they know they don't necessarily need to re-ask it. When you put it in the chat, it does only go to me. So it is a little bit harder for everyone else to see all of the questions and if there are similarities between questions. But I do recommend asking throughout. I will try to answer them throughout the conversation as best as possible. Know that some of the questions you have may get answered throughout the presentation. So if that happens, I may say this question will be answered a little bit later. But again, please feel free anytime throughout. I want to make sure you guys feel comfortable in asking any questions that you have. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So this is a little bit of our agenda today. So the biggest thing that I think is on everyone's mind is preparing for that career fair and how to make sure that you're ready to go. So we're going to walk through a lot of different steps, on making sure that you really feel prepared for the event, specifically within the Brazen platform, which the Brazen platform is the platform that we'll be using to have the virtual career fairs, how to then execute in that virtual environment to showcase the best skill sets and attributes that you would like to showcase, follow up important dates with all of the links that you're going to need, and any other question answers that you may have today. So again, a little bit on our agenda today. We're going to start off talking a lot about Brazen. So if you are unfamiliar, the university as a whole did decide to move all career fairs to a virtual environment, mainly because we aren't allowed to have groups of over 25 in any sort of room. So that doesn't really make sense for an in-person career fair. So with that, we did need to kind of investigate different platforms that would allow a lot of students in an event at one time and be able to have individual conversations with those employers. So after doing some investigation, the platform that was chosen is called Brazen. It will be used for all career fairs this fall. So that's going to be career fairs within the business college, the general career services career fairs, and any other college career fair that you may go to if you're a dual enrolled student. So just be cautious that you do want to be very familiar with Brazen, as it is the thing that will be used throughout the entire fall. So you will need to create a Brazen account, and that is to, again, make sure you're able to log into all of the different events. You'll create a profile. In that profile, you'll need to upload your resume. So you do want to make sure your resume is updated, because all of the employers will have access to be able to view that if you do connect with them on an individual basis. Along with a picture of yourself. I do recommend that you put a picture up. You will be doing video chats with these employers, but having that little picture profile is helpful, especially when they are re-looking at who they talked to for the day. They can actually go back and view the candidates that they chatted with. So it will help them remember who's who. So I think those pictures are definitely helpful. I would recommend going to Brazen, and again, I'll show you guys the links a little bit later. But going to Brazen and setting up your account early, that way you can make sure all of your compatibility, your accessibility, the volume works, everything kind of is through. You don't have any issues with firewalls or cookies or anything like that with the computer. So you do want to make sure that you can access that on the day of the event. You do need to register while you're making one account with Brazen. You will actually need to register for every career fair individually within that platform. And I'll show you where all of those links are and how you can see all of the career fairs that you've registered for. But because they're all technically separate events, there is a separate link for all of those. So just remember, if you plan to go to, say, the supply chain career fair next week, but then you also plan to go to Mega Fair, they will have different registration links that you'll need to utilize. You are able to go into the event now. So when you see those links, you can go, once you register, you can go into the event, check out the lobby, see the employers that are coming, get a feel for what that environment really does look like before the day of the event. Now, you're obviously not going to be able to chat or talk with any of those employers, but you will be able to kind of just peek around to see what that event looks like. There is a picture here. This is just kind of an image of what will look like when you register for the event. So this is something that you should see when registering for those events. Okay. So in thinking about that, I just talked about the fact that Brazen will have all of the employers listed in the event. However, we are not recommending that you use Brazen to try and research the employers coming. Mainly because it's really, you're not able to filter within Brazen who's maybe hiring for specific industries, for specific majors. This is probably going to be a little bit more of a factor with the other fairs other than supply chain, as supply chain tends to be looking for supply chain, but you're not going to be able to filter on who's looking for full-time versus internship versus co-op. So in order to do your research, if it's supply chain, go to their website, as they're going to have a list of what the employers are going to be hiring for. But for any of the other events, you will use Nittany Lion Careers to do your research. So hopefully all of you are familiar with Nittany Lion Careers, as that is the place where all jobs are posted. You can schedule career coaching appointments, and you can see all of the career events. So all of the career fairs are posted in Nittany Lion Careers and also in Brazen. But the reason we did that is because you can filter on the employers within Nittany Lion Careers. So when you're doing your research and determining what employers you want to talk to, who has positions that you have an interest with, start with Nittany Lion Careers so you can get an idea of what they have to offer. This is just a little picture of kind of what it should look like for you once you go into Nittany Lion Careers and start searching around. But you should be able to search on geographical area, position type, type of majors they're looking for. So there's lots of different things that you can be filtering on. And so making sure you utilize that for your research component, but then going to Brazen for the day of with the list of employers that you want to see. All right. So in thinking about figuring out how do you actually start looking at the research, there's going to be a lot of companies that are coming to these career fairs. For the mega fair, there's over 60 employers. Supply chain is going to have 3 days worth of employers. The fall career days event is going to have around 300 employers. So it's going to be a lot to sift through. So you really want to make sure that you understand and know your own values, what you're looking for in a company, and then figuring out what companies can I identify with and understanding how my values fit within those companies. Because I'm going to utilize that information when I'm presenting it to the employer to showcase why I'm interested, why I'm drawn to that organization, and why I would be a good fit. So really understanding your values and how they align with those companies is really important. When doing some of your research, there's a lot to sort through. There's a lot of companies that are coming. I would definitely say, you know, obviously the big employers, go do the research, talk to them. But also don't forget about those smaller companies. Sometimes you could actually have a longer conversation with those employers. You can have an internship where you can maybe get to know a little bit more about the organization as a whole, versus when you go to a larger organization, it might be a little bit more of just that position and just that function, and you don't really get a holistic perspective. So depending on what your goals are, you might be able to get a little bit broader of an experience if you decide to go with a smaller firm. So definitely don't overlook them when you are doing your research. And also remember, at the career fair, the larger companies are going to be the ones with the longest lines. And we'll talk about lines and what that looks like a little bit later in the virtual environment. But, you know, you want to make sure that if you go stand in those lines, make sure you talk to those employers, but don't necessarily forget about those smaller firms that you'd be able to maybe chat with and have a really good conversation with, because there's going to be less people that are interested because they just don't know that company. So it is a great opportunity for you to again, maybe get a better connection with an organization. All right. When thinking about your preparation, again, all of this is going to be the same regardless of whether it's in the virtual world or within person. When you actually connect to a company in this virtual environment, it's going to be one-on-one videos. So you will actually be able to talk to a live human being. And so you're still going to be having things like your elevator pitch. They're potentially going to ask you, like, why are you interested in us? Why do you want this position? What is it about us that you're excited about? So you want to make sure you can answer that question. And you want to make sure you can answer it with some tangible things that showcase you actually did some research on the organization, know what they're about, understand their goals, their mission, and their values, and how that aligns to what your own career goals are. Because if you go up and they say, tell me why you're interested in us, and they say, oh, well, I want an internship, and you have an internship, they're going to say, okay, great, but lots of companies have internships. So why do you want my internship? What is it about my organization, about my company that you're really excited about? So you do need to make sure you have all of that information. One thing that's really nice with the virtual environment is you can actually have a notepad and a Padfolio with you to review all of that while you're also having that conversation with the employer. And it looks like, I think there's a chat, except I can't, why can't I see it? Interesting. Okay. If you wrote in the chat, for some reason it's not popping up for me. If you could write it in the question answer, that would be awesome. For some reason, I'm not able to see the chat unless you had deleted it. So just so you know, I know there was one that popped up, but I can't see it. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, so remember, know why you're interested in that organization. If you're not necessarily sure why you're interested or what it is that you have an interest to, attend some events that they're hosting. So again, it looks different this year, but we are having companies actually kind of coming to campus, and in a way is that they're actually hosting virtual information sessions. So they're also using the Brazen platform, and they're called Connect Days. So Deloitte had one yesterday, Clark Associates had one today, and it's an ability for you to go and talk to those employers on more of a one-on-one basis and learn more about them. That will help you then in the career fair to have another conversation with a different representative. Yes, so the PowerPoint will be posted. So it's being recorded. So after this session, I will be sending everyone that's attended an email with the recording link and the PowerPoint presentation. You'll probably get that at some point tomorrow. Good question. Is there a queue of going to a certain company? Yep. So we're going to talk about what that looks like. I have a couple of slides that will actually break down what that's going to look like, but there is going to be kind of a line or a queue as to who's going to be next to talk to that employer. So we'll chat about what that looks like in a little bit. All right. Okay. And then keep going from there. Like I said, going to information sessions is a really great way to start building the connection with those companies. One thing that a lot of organizations are actually doing is tracking your engagement. So if you go to an information session and then maybe you go to an office hour that they host virtually, or a company event that they have that is networking with maybe some other people in the organization, and then you go to the career fair and then you apply for the position, they will have tracked that information to showcase that, hey, this person has engaged with us 3 times. They definitely are interested in us. They may push you up higher into that interview status more than someone who has just applied online. So I recommend that if it is a top company, to definitely try to engage as much as you can with as many people or as many events as you can and have great conversations, because in the end, it's just going to continue to build the network, but also they're going to be able to track, you know, that you are engaged and that it could put you a step above some other people as well. As I mentioned, you are able to keep notes during the career fair. So all of the research you've done on why you're interested in that company and questions that you have for them, you can actually have sitting right in front of you. That way you only have to think about that one company at that time, and you don't have to try and remember all of the different companies and all of the different things you want to talk about. You can focus really on just that one company because you have things in front of you. I think that's a really great way to do that. I'd also have individual questions for all of the employers that you want to talk to. Again, that keeps the conversation going and it shows them your interest, that you're intrigued, that you're curious, and those are all skill sets employers are looking for. Again, you can enter into the lobby to learn how that platform works a little bit early. And if you have any questions on researching companies, we have a lot of resources on our website. So I do recommend that if you're kind of curious on what should I actually be talking about or researching with an organization. Okay, so this is probably what you guys are interested in. So this is actually what the platform is going to look like. So once you register with your account and you go into the lobby, you could actually go and see this right now. This is going to be a giant list of all of the companies that are coming. This is actually just a snapshot of, I believe, Mega Fair. And so this is why it's a little harder to filter because it's just kind of different tiles throughout. So that's why we say do that research beforehand. That way you're not having to like go into every single individual one and figure out which companies you want to talk to. But what's really nice is it'll have a little bit about who the company is, the logo, and then you can actually enter the booth. When you enter the booth, that's where you're going to get more detailed information about an individual employer. You'll be able to see what representatives are there. You'll be able to see what job opportunities they have to offer. If they have an email or a website, they'll all be listed. And then once you go into that individual booth, that's where you can enter a line to chat. So you do want to make sure that you hit a button that says, yes, I want to chat with this person. And if there is a current representative available, you will automatically be connected and you can start that chat, which will then turn into a video conversation. If, however, there's a line, as we were talking about earlier, there's a queue, it may say that there's an estimated wait time of anywhere from 5 minutes to maybe half an hour. It's hard to gauge because all of the conversations, maybe 5 minutes, maybe longer. They're all set for 8-minute time slots. But an employer can increase that time if they need more time to finish out the conversation. So it really does kind of vary, but so you may have to wait for one company to have that conversation. But what's really nice is you can actually wait in multiple lines. So if I'm waiting for Alku and it says there's a 15-minute wait, I can actually leave the booth, go into Amazon's booth and click chat and also get in line for them as well. So that's really nice in that what you can't do in a regular career fair is actually wait in multiple lines. So you might actually be able to talk to more employers at once. So yes, so great question. You can be queued up in multiple booths. I recommend, maybe not trying to queue yourself up in like 10 lines because what happens is the system, as soon as you are done with Alku, right, you've had that conversation, and you close out and now Amazon's ready for you, it's going to immediately connect you to Amazon. So you're not necessarily going to have a lot of time to, adjust. So if you're waiting in a lot of lines, you could be going back to back to back to back without any sort of break. So maybe waiting in 3 lines at a time, 4 lines at a time. That way you can make sure if you need to take a break, you can take a break when you want to. But you are able to kind of wait in as many lines as you want. Another question I get with that is, say I'm talking to Alku and Amazon tries to ping me because they're free, but I'm currently already talking to another employer. The Amazon will move on to the next student to not hold up the line, but you will continually be pinged next until you are actually ready to go. So you don't lose your place in line, you just become that next person until you're actually free. So that's also really nice that you don't get bumped or anything like that if you are talking to another employer. So this is kind of what it looks like. Again, on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see your profile, your picture. This actually right now will tell you how many days it is until it starts, things like that. But you'll also be able to view any transcript, any like history you have of any of the conversations you had. You can actually view all of the transcripts, which will be really nice for remembering what employers and what representatives you talk to. Okay, so once you enter into an individual booth, this is what it's going to kind of look like. So you'll be able to see the homepage, which is going to be a little bit more of just like the about them, who they are. They actually did post this. This is Altria. They did post 2 different positions they currently have available. They have their social media on here. You can then click on the Altria opportunities, and it'll actually list out the job description and what that looks like. And then a little bit more if you want to get more details on about us. That's really nice in case you see a company that maybe you didn't do research on, but they seem interesting in the fair. You can gather some information before trying to connect with them at the fair so that when you have those conversations, you have something that you want to talk about. Okay. So along with that, so when you're thinking about that and doing the research and knowing how you can kind of get into those individual booths, I would recommend deciding on, depending on how much time you want to be in the fair, between 5 to 10 employers you're going to talk to. Again, you might actually be, we actually recommend 5 to 10 at an in-person fair, but you may actually be able to talk to more now that you can wait in multiple lines and you don't have to spend that time waiting in an individual line and walking to the other space. So that may up a little bit, but you don't want to necessarily overwhelm yourself with the research because you do have to have individual reasons as to why you're interested in them and individual questions for those recruiters. If you're really interested in an organization, I would definitely recommend trying to apply for a position before the fair, if it's available. So you can log on to Nittany Lion Careers, see if they have their jobs posted, see if their internships are posted, go to their website, see if it's posted, and if it is, it's really great to apply beforehand so that when you're in that career fair, you can, and they say, yep, you're gonna have to apply online. You know, they give you that same speech of applying online. You could say, actually, I already did, and it showcases that initiative and that excitement that you have, and that can really set you apart. And it looks like we do have some more Q&As, so let me just, oh, I answered that one. So just to clarify, it is better to research and apply on Nittany Lion Careers or on the company website or both. So it actually depends. That's a really great question. So I would look at both. Some companies actually require you to apply in Nittany Lion Careers alone, and they actually will pull all of the applications just from Nittany Lion Careers. Other companies, when you look on Nittany Lion Careers, it will say, please apply on our website. And so you're just applying on their website. Other companies may have a posting in Nittany Lion Careers that say you need to apply on Nittany Lion Careers, but you also need to apply on the website. So unfortunately, it's company based and it's different for every organization. So I just recommend looking at both. I would say look at Nittany Lion Careers first. And then if it says, you know, if you're not finding what you're looking for, go to the website. Because everything right now for the entry-level positions within the companies, they do try to target Nittany Lion Careers because they know you guys are using it. But it really does honestly change for every single company. So I'd love to have one standard answer, but there is not. Okay, awesome. All right, so again, talking about that, make sure if you can apply beforehand, do it. If not, that's okay. What I would recommend is if you can apply before the fair, now that you're gonna have all of their contact information, after the fair, if you apply, during your follow-up, you can say, and also I wanted to let you know I did apply for the position. Here's my number, you know, the requisition number or my application number. I'm looking forward to, you know, potentially talking to you soon. That way, again, they can see that you did actually follow up on that action of applying. So either way is great. Applying a little bit beforehand if you can is definitely better. Make sure you prioritize your list. One thing I will say is don't approach that first company first, your number one company first. Try to get the jitters out, especially in the virtual environment. You're going to be talking via video, kind of navigating how that elevator pitch is going to go. Try to, you know, maybe talk to like a company that is like 5th or 6th on your list so that you can get all of the nerves out before approaching your first company. I will say the Business Career Center, we're going to have a booth in every single event. So if you want to just test out how the chat works or how to get connected to the video or a last minute question, you can come to our booth and test all of that out before you actually then go talk to an employer. Again, you can't really do that till a live event, but it's a nice place to get started if you'd like to do that before you go into a career or to an employer booth. As we talked about, you can wait in multiple lines. The default is set to 8 minutes, which is quite a bit for a career fair. When you think about it, you probably only chat for about 5 or so minutes at a career fair, but the recruiter can extend that timeline. So you don't have to worry about the fact that if you're in the middle of a sentence, it's not just going to shut off on you. The employer is warned, and you are warned when there's 2 minutes left in the chat. So either you can wrap up your conversation if you know you feel like you're at that point, or the employer can actually extend it by, I think, 5 or 10 minutes. 5, they can extend it with 5, 2, 5, or 10 minutes, that's it. So depending on what you guys are talking about, you could potentially be talking to them for about 18 minutes if they decide to extend it that long. Yes, great question about attire. Again, treating it like a real career fair, I would be dressed business professional, at least in the video. They're not really going to be asking you to stand. It's not going to be like an interview where they're like, stand to make sure we can see that you're fully dressed in professional attire. But I would recommend treating it like a career fair in person where you would be dressed in business professional. If you don't have a suit, try to dress as business professional as you can. But I would also recommend thinking about getting a suit for those interviews, as typically during an interview, you're going to want to be business professional as well. This is a weird time with COVID. Normally we do have a professional attire closet where you could actually go and pick up free professional clothes. But now with COVID, we're not able to do that. So I think at this point, you would probably have to purchase clothes, as I don't know that you're able to really do any sort of free clothing options at this point. Another question, since space is limited around campus, is yes. So it's perfect, great question as far as where you're going to be located. As long as you're not going to be in a loud space, where you're going to warn your roommates that you're going to be at the career fair so that they're not in the background blasting music or coming in asking where you are. It's okay to be at your room at your desk. Just make sure that what's behind you is appropriate, right? You don't have laundry everywhere. You don't have signs that are inappropriate, and make sure the lighting is good so that they can see you. But that's perfectly okay. They know your students, and so that's absolutely fine. Okay, I think there's a few more here. I know in person you would be bringing physical copies of your resume. How's it going to work? So yes, so you actually will upload your resume to your profile in Brazen, and whenever you get connected to an employer in the system, they will actually be able to see your whole profile and your resume. So they will actually have access to your resume automatically. It actually makes it easier on you because you will not actually need to even provide it to them. As long as your resume is in the system, which it has to be to register, it won't even let you register without your resume. They're going to be able to see that. So great question. I don't have a blazer, but I have shirt. As long as they're like professional shirts and nice shirts, I think that's fine. Obviously you don't want it to be like a t-shirt, but if it's more of like a button down shirt, I think that would be absolutely okay. Great questions. Okay. All right, I think we're done with this slide. Okay. Also with that, you will also still have your elevator pitch. So because you are actually going to be communicating with these people via live time in a video chat, you are also going to be providing somewhat of a form of an elevator pitch. It may not be quite the way that you do it in an in-person event, but you may start the conversation off. It's going to be basically, when you get connected to an employer, it'll start off as a chat, and the employer will say, "Hi, Sarah, it's great to meet you today. Would you like to join a video chat?" And then you're going to click yes. And then they will actually initiate the video. You have 60 seconds to answer that video. So if you don't answer the video in 60 seconds, it will automatically go away. So you do want to make sure you answer that video within 60 seconds, and then you'll be connected live time. So it might be more like, "Oh, hi." And if you're talking to Susan, you can be like, "Hi, Susan, how's your day going today? Is everything working well with the virtual world?" Like, try to make it more of like a conversation, and then, kind of have some of that small talk, and then you can get into, "Well, as you can see, my name is Sarah. I'm currently a Penn State sophomore. I've been involved in XYZ," and then you can get into that elevator pitch. This is kind of the way we like to structure an elevator pitch, where you're introducing yourself, providing your year, your major, and then talking about maybe something about, it's like, I was really drawn to your company because, or I'm interested in your organization because, that's where that research will come into play. And then tie in maybe something that you found from that company, whether that's the research or a position that they have. And then say, oh, well, and actually at Penn State, I've been able to get involved in this, or I've been able to develop my skill sets in this, that I think would be really valuable for that organization. So you're tying the two together. And then, unless it turns into more of a conversation and the employer has a question, asking the employer a question to end your elevator pitch is a great way to continue that conversation. It looks like I have some questions. Okay. Could you go into detail about the information sessions? For example, the supply chain one has multiple companies attending. Is it the same format as the career fairs then? So it is a little bit very similar, correct? I actually don't know for the supply chain. They're doing this a little bit differently, but I'm pretty sure they're using Brazen for their information sessions. And so it actually will be exactly the same as the career fair. It's just kind of a different opportunity to connect with them in a different format. And if we've already submitted a resume to register for the fair, can we go back and edit, change the old resume and replace it with a new one? Yes. So in your profile, you are able to re-upload a different resume if you would like to, in case something changes or you found an error or mistake on your resume. Could you repeat the piece about interacting with the recruiter? I'm not sure which piece you're referring to. Are you talking, if you could be a little bit more clear on which piece, I'm happy to repeat that, but I'm not sure which part you're talking about, specifically the elevator pitch or how to get started. So I can definitely help with that. And then I know that there was a hand raised. I don't actually know how to answer the hand that's raised. I think that's under participants. I can see the hand raise, maybe. If you raised your hand, it might be easier to put your question in the chat because I don't actually know how to answer the raised hand, apparently. So I'm sorry about that. All right. What are examples of questions people ask at the, yeah. So that may depend on some of the research that you've done. So a question could be, I see that XYZ company just put forth a new initiative with their supply chain unit in XYZ. I was wondering if you could talk to me a little bit more about how that's going to change, you know, maybe the daily structure for the people working in that field. Or it could be like something about the position, even. It could be, you know, for the supply chain internship, you know, could you tell me a little bit more about what the daily responsibilities would look like? So it can be whatever actually interests you as a question, but it can't be something that you can easily find on the website. So you want to make sure it's something that you can generally talk about, and they need to be able to bring in their own perspectives. It can even be questions such as, you know, I'm really interested in this organization. Could you tell me about how you got started with this organization and what you like about it? So it can really be anything that actually generally interests you, because then that's going to make it feel more like a genuine conversation. Yes, the elevator pitch, like after, okay. So yeah, so after you introduce yourself, you really want to make sure that you're tying in why you are interested in that company and how that connects to maybe some of the experiences you've had at Penn State. And after that, it's really going to be depending on what the employer wants. So they may have specific questions for you. Sometimes they even ask a few, I'd say, behavioral-based questions, such as, you know, tell me a little bit more, like if they're looking at your resume, they say, tell me a little bit more about this specific experience. And so it really does depend on what that recruiter is looking for. But really, after you're introducing who you are, you're really trying to engage them by talking about what you've learned from them, what you're excited about from them, and what you'd like to learn more from them. As someone who is shy and thinks it's awkward to talk about, yeah, that happens quite a bit. To be honest, there's a lot of people that don't like to do that. Do you have any tips for the, okay. So unfortunately, I think it always feels a little bit awkward, especially in the virtual environment, just because you are kind of talking to a computer. But I would say practice. Have your pitch kind of not written out in a paragraph form, but have it bulleted as to specific points that you want to address. And then I would actually practice it out loud, because then you can hear yourself talking about it, you can hear how it flows, and it will start to feel a little bit more natural to you the more that you practice it. It can be a little bit strange, but one thing to remember is the employers are so excited to talk to you. You know, they're not here to scare you. They're not here to, you know, try to frighten you about all of the different things that, you know, are happening. They're there to just like learn about you, and they're excited about, you know, engaging with you. So if anything, they're going to be putting off very positive vibes, which might also help you feel a little bit more comfortable. Let's see here. So supply chain information sessions will be concurrent sessions. There'll be 4 companies live. Okay, so they're doing a broadcast. Okay. Each half an hour, students will be able to jump between any of the sessions. Chat will be available during the entire time. Thanks for that information. Yeah, so it sounds like they're still going to use Brazen, but they're going to use kind of a broadcast feature. Well, they'll be able to actually, it's going to look like a presentation and like a webinar. So the employer will actually be presenting information about the organization. You can go into that booth, and they're going to be talking a little bit about themselves, so you'll be able to learn more about who they are, what they're bringing to the table, all of that. And then they'll have representatives available so that in addition to listening to that presentation, you could ask any individual questions. So thank you for clarifying for that. I answered that one. Sorry, I'm just making sure I answered all the questions. Is it appropriate to ask how they conducted their internships No, that's absolutely okay. I think that's very appropriate, especially with the world of COVID. You could say, I know this summer was really strange. How did you guys handle the internship, you know, the internship cohort that you had this year? What did that look like for you? I think that's absolutely okay and appropriate. It shows again that you're interested in seeing how they kind of handled that and what they did. And you're getting a lot of different answers, but that's definitely an okay thing to ask. So roughly how long should an elevator pitch last? It's not gonna last very long. Typically we say it's an elevator pitch because it shouldn't really be anywhere over like 2 minutes, because you're kind of like talking and talking and talking. So you don't necessarily want to drive the conversation just yourself. You do want to get to the point of it being a conversation. So this is more of just a very small summary of who you are. So you do want it to last about a minute or 2 and not really any longer than that. That's why that practice can come into play. So you can kind of gauge, you know, how that's coming off and how long that is. If we have classes, this happens every year. If we have class during the career fair, is it normal for students to miss classes for networking career opportunities? So this does happen. This was actually much more difficult when the fair was in person, because you had to travel to also get to the fair. But I would recommend, if you have class during the event, talk to your professor. You do have a lot of professors who are pretty understanding and flexible, as long as you talk to them beforehand that you plan on going. Let them know that, hey, I'll complete any work beforehand. Is there something I should be doing to make sure I'm prepared for, you know, for the week? However, you know, I really want to make sure that I can attend this career fair. This is the only time that, you know, I'm really able to make sure I can attend the event. So I would talk to your professors, but we do have students, unfortunately, you know, if a professor isn't willing to kind of be flexible, I don't recommend it, but we have had students that miss class to go to networking and career opportunities. But I would chat with your professor, because some professors can be pretty harsh if they find out that you missed because of a career fair. So I would just talk to the professor and see what their guidelines are. Good question. Yeah, it's really hard because there's no good time to have the event, to go in between students and classes, and also to work with the employer's schedules, because employers work during the day. So that's when they want to make sure that they have their events and can get enough staff to be able to participate in the event. So unfortunately, students and employers tend to always have opposite schedules. Okay. And just so all of you know, I'm apparently getting a thunderstorm at my house. So if anything happens to my Wi-Fi, I will apologize. Hopefully it does not. This is a little bit more with your practicing your pitch. This is a way that you might be able to design it and thinking about some maybe things that you have been able to do or accomplish for your own experiences. So the I am, here's who I am. Here are some things that I have been able to do. Here are some things that I enjoy, that I like as far as professional types of things. Maybe here's an accomplishment that I'm proud of. So that can be a really great way to help format some things that you make sure you want to talk about during your elevator pitch. Okay, so I know we already kind of addressed attire, so thanks for already bringing that up. But basically, again, you're going to treat this like a very professional environment. You're going to dress business professional if you can. The suit on top is definitely great. I usually have to give the speech of don't wear giant heels because you're going to be in pain because you're walking all day. You don't have to worry about that right now. But so just as long as you have, you know, your hair done and, you know, if you're a woman who like to wear makeup, whatever it is, make sure that you look nice and clean and ready to go with that suit. You'll be absolutely fine. As far as your setting, make sure you're in a quiet space, no distracting backgrounds, as we mentioned before. Make sure you do have a strong internet connection. There are going to be a lot of students on this platform, a lot of employers on this platform. You know, if you're going to be in a house with 4 other people and you're all trying to get onto the career fair, that could pose an internet issue. So make sure you talk to your roommates beforehand, figure out whose schedules is what. If you have to go somewhere, go ahead and do that. You know, I know there's not as many spaces on campus as you can go, but you are still actually able to reserve space within and around campus as long as you're there by yourself. I know they have learning rooms, and that's a little bit different, where that's kind of if you want to go and like be a part of a class while you're doing your learning environment. But if you want to be in a private space, you can still reserve space, but it's just a little bit more limited. So look at that in advance. Yeah, again, check your video quality, lighting, make sure they can see you. The other thing I recommend is don't have your laptop on your actual lap. I have worked with students where, because they're like sitting on a couch or something, they have a laptop on their actual lap, and it looks down, it gives weird angles, but also students shake their legs, and so sometimes it actually looks like there's like an earthquake going on. So make sure you're at a desk and we can see you, you know, face to face, eyes facing forward. Again, have your notepad with you, your pen with you, take all of your notes, make sure you have all your questions written down. So really great opportunity to make sure you can showcase all the research that you've done. The nice thing is you typically have to make sure you get a business card to follow up. You don't actually need to do that because you're going to get a transcription of everything and everyone that you talk to. So you want to make sure you collect all of that data. Since you have a profile, you'll be able to see that, I think, for 30 days. But then you want to make sure you can go and then connect with them on LinkedIn so that you can follow up and thank them for attending the event. So that's a little bit actually nicer instead of having to try and grab a business card from them. You can have your resume in front of you if you want to make sure you need that to reference any of your own experiences or bring something up. It might be nice to have your own resume in front of you. And I think there's some questions that I'm going to answer. Will companies host follow-up interviews on Brazen as well? So that's going to be a case-by-case and up to the employer. They may just want to use Zoom, since you don't necessarily have to manage a ton of people through an interview, right? Because that's really just a one-person, one-employer thing. They'll probably use their own platform that they have within their company, which will probably be a Zoom or a Skype. But they will host follow-up interviews. Some interviews will be happening very quickly. Supply chain, I know, interviews very quickly after the career fairs. Other companies may take a little bit longer. You might be hearing from them a month or so after the career fair. But everything will be held in a virtual realm, but it could be phone, it could be Skype, it could be Zoom for the most part. Can you choose? Okay, great question. You cannot choose who you want to talk to from a company, and it is a random selected of who's available. So if you think about it as a real career fair, when you're waiting in that line and there are 6 different representatives, you kind of just go to the next person that's available. It's that same concept, just to make sure we can get through and all students have an opportunity to talk to the employers. But all of those employers and representatives are talking to each other, so they're going to be able to communicate with all of the different students that they talk to. If you've met them before and have an ongoing relationship, Are you saying, is your question like you would like to talk to somebody else, or if you would like to continue to talk to them? Either way, you don't get a choice. So if you've already met them and have an ongoing relationship, you might just have different questions than if it's someone that's new. So that conversation just might look a little bit different. Is it okay if we have to look through our notes and research it? Yeah, so that's fine. If you have to look down at a time, that's perfectly okay. You know, as long as you're making sure you try to make eye contact and you're talking to them. If you have to look down every now and then, that's okay. But you don't want to be staring down while you're talking, because that will showcase that you're reading and you may not necessarily be fully engaged. So do it with caution. And that's why I say don't necessarily write in paragraphs and don't write down every single thing you want to say, and write it in bullets. That way you can just do a quick reference and look back up, and it's more of a genuine conversation coming out of your mouth. Okay. Where can I find info sessions for certain companies before and after career fairs? So all of the information sessions are going to be posted on Nittany Lion Careers or an email from supply chain. So if you're a supply chain student, the Center of Supply Chain actually emails those students directly with all of that information. But everything else, all of the other information sessions and employer events are on our website. If you aren't familiar with our website, it's on the PowerPoint presentation, but if you Google SMEAL Business Career Center, you will find us, and it's under the, it's under the events tab. Okay. For the supply chain career fair, interview structure will vary different, and timing may be different than previous years. If employers don't share their plan, so yeah, so I think it's perfectly okay to ask their timing. I think you can say something like, you know, I was really excited to talk to you at the career fair. I'm really excited to actually apply. Just so I have an idea, do you have a timeline as to when you're hoping to maybe go through the interview process and select candidates? That way, again, you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like, especially if it is different this year. I know a lot of our recruiters were hoping that their recruiting timeline would look very similar to other years. But I think everyone's kind of hoping this COVID will go away and next summer will look normal. But I think that everyone's kind of, all the decisions change every day. So I would just say it's definitely okay to ask that question. Okay, so moving on. Talked a little bit about this already. Don't start at your number one. Again, make sure you have the list of everyone that you would like to talk to. You do want to make sure your chat status is set to available. I have a picture of that I'll show you here in a minute. That way, again, you can make sure you hit that chat button when you're ready. You will be able to wait in virtual lines. During your chat, the employer will initiate the, I already talked about this, I already did this whole slide. If you don't have time to chat with all the employers, right, there's 60 of them, and you come across someone that you didn't really get a chance, you can actually leave them a note. So if you go into their booth, there's an option that says like chat or leave a note. And if you leave a note, you can kind of say like, you know, I'm so sorry I had to leave. You know, I was really excited to talk to you. I plan to apply to XYZ position, and give them some, you know, a little bit of your background. And, you know, say I would love a chance to chat with you if you're free, you know, here's my email or something like that, to be able to at least give them some sort of context if you're not able, because again, you're not gonna be able to talk to everybody. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. I don't actually know what time it is. Okay, so we have about 10 more minutes here. So this is again for the chats to make sure you are set to availability. So up there when you're in the live event, on that left-hand nav where you saw like the history, the lobby, how much time was left before the actual event, you do want to make sure that that's hit, that your chat availability is on. And then this is what you're going to see when you go in and enter the booth during the actual live event. It'll say like right now there's no one waiting to chat, which means you could probably see someone right away. But also this will tell you how many representatives are actually available. So the example I gave you just says 0 out of 2 because no one's actually available. But if both representatives are online and ready to chat, you'll be able to go in and potentially get connected immediately. So if it says maybe there are 4 waiting to chat, and then it might say like 2 out of 2 representatives are there, it will also showcase like an estimated wait time. So it kind of gives you an idea of, how quickly it may go, you may be able to get through that. Will the recording? Yes. So I will send over the recording so you'll be able to rewatch this, definitely. Is the chat availability switch only available once? Yeah, so honestly, it's defaulted to on. So as long as you don't check it off, you should be fine for the entire event. It doesn't turn off or anything like that. So as long as you leave it on, you should be fine. Great question. Okay. And then you can also manage all of your chats. So you'll see that right here, right below where it says chat availability. You can see what current lines you're waiting in. And then you can actually add different lines to wait in. So right now it says like, I'm waiting for this company to arrive. But for this one, I'm waiting, and it'll tell you like, are you waiting? Are you in line? Or are you not in line? And then how much is your estimated wait time? So that's really nice. So you can see what all lines you're actually in and who you're planning to talk to. Okay. So then when you're ready to chat, there'll be a green button up here and it just says chat. Super easy. Once you're then connected, this down here at the right-hand side is what it's going to look like. So you'll see that video. There'll be also chat ability, so you can chat and video if you need to. And you'll be able to then see your profile. They'll be able to see your profile and your resume. And then if either one of you are ending the chat, you can also end the chat right from there. So you can have it be your audio, your video muted if you need to. If I always have to warn everyone because I have a dog, so sometimes I mute in the middle of things because my dog is barking. So if there's anything you have to do, you can do that as well. So this is kind of what that will look like for you. Okay. Biggest thing is being confident. I talked a little about this before. It is really tricky. A lot of us aren't used to talking about ourselves and our skills and our experiences. And a lot of it is that fake it till you make it. It's just kind of, showcasing that you have that confidence, and it will come across in that way. And sometimes, to be honest, being in that virtual world by yourself may help you and feeling a little bit better about talking about your own experiences. But you do want to make sure that you're at least trying to showcase that confidence. And that's why practice will really help to bring that even forward a little bit more. And if this is a little piece about what differentiate you, you want them to remember you. So the way they'll remember you is by telling personal stories, by being genuine, talking about unique things about yourself. If you just say, hi, I'm Sherry, I'm a junior, I'm a supply chain student, and I like to, travel. It's not very memorable. And I'm not going to potentially remember much about you, but to be honest, a lot of employers have conversations because if you're like, oh, I really like to travel and do service trips, and I actually had a really good experience. I spent 2 weeks in Bolivia helping students to build a bridge. That's now a really unique story that not everyone's going to be able to say. And then employers are going to be like, oh, I remember that person. They did that cool service trip. So you want to make sure if there's anything you can kind of bring in that will give your own perspective. So really great way for those employers to remember you. Okay. Saying goodbye is a lot easier now because, again, there's a specific time that you have to use. So if it's getting down to the wire and there's 2 minutes left, making sure you do start to wrap up and let them know thank you for their time, tell them how excited you are about the opportunity, and then expressing that genuine interest and let them know that you're going to follow up with any of the requests that they have already asked of you. Just watch the timing so you can make sure you can get all of your thank yous in before the time does end, because once that time goes down to that 8 minutes and no one's extended it, it does automatically shut you out. So you do want to make sure you can wrap up if you need to. Okay. If you have any issues during the event, and again, you'll have this PowerPoint, this is the support@brazen.com is like a live email, so they'll be able to help support during the event. Unfortunately, we're going to be there, but we don't know how the technology works. It's not our system. It's a third party. So if something's going on with your account, you may actually need to contact Brazen and not necessarily us, because we won't really have any sort of admin approval to be able to help you. So you do want to make sure, again, if you have any issues, to make sure you take down that email address. These are just some things about, maybe why I'm not doing some things to frequently ask questions. So again, you'll have all this information and take a look at it as needed. Okay. Once you're done with the conversation and you're done with the fair, make sure you do email or connect via LinkedIn to all the employers you talk to. You do want to make sure that after every single employer you talk to, you've made a note about something you talked about in the conversation so you can reference it in that thank you note. That way it's a personalized thank you note and they can have an idea of who you were and the conversation that you had. With the way this event works, you probably will be doing more LinkedIn connections, as I don't think that the emails are displayed unless the employer does display it themselves as an individual, so they may not actually showcase that information. But know that since you'll have their name and their company, you'll be able to find them on LinkedIn. If we have to come a little late, say oh yeah, so the career, you'll be able to completely participate fully if you show up at 1. I do recommend coming earlier rather than later, just because employers kind of get tired at the end of the day. They might be hungry. They've been talking all day. So they're a little more energized at the beginning of the day. So if you can get there before 2, it is better. But yeah, you can show up at any time between that 11 and 4. You can ask the recruiter for the contact information if they don't have their email displayed, and you can just say like, is it okay if I grab your email address? You can maybe have them write it in the chat. That way you can make sure it's correct. So you can definitely do that. But the nice thing is if you forget, you have their name so you can connect with them on LinkedIn. Yeah, there you go. It is appropriate to ask for the employer email, so you can definitely do that. All right. Yes. All right. So thank you. Yep. Just making sure it's genuine, making sure it references something about the actual conversation you had. Again, your notepad is going to be your best friend during this event because you want to make sure you can write those things down so you don't forget who you talked to. Should we do our follow-up as a note when adding? Yes, because you want to make sure that when you're adding them on LinkedIn, if you just automatically connect to them, they may not exactly remember who you are or why you're connecting. So adding the note will give them a reference as to who you are. So you can say, thanks, Jerry. It was great meeting you at the Penn State Supply Chain Career Fair. I really enjoyed talking about X. It'd be great to stay connected. And then you can connect, then connect with him so he has a bit of a frame of reference as to who you are. That's absolutely great to do. Okay. Making sure we get through all of this, as I know we're almost out of time. Maybe, okay. This is probably the information you want. This is all of the links, dates, times, all of the fairs. So make sure you do have all of this information. Like I said, there are individual links for every single career fair. So you should be able to access all of the information you need to from all of those links for any fair that you're interested in going to. The ones for fall career days, if you are looking for an internship, the day you'll be going is 9/24. If you're looking for full-time, the day you'll be going is 9/21. So it's full-time non-recruitment is the 21st, and then all internships the 24th. So we'll just keep those notes and make that as a reminder, as those are the dates you'll be going to. If you want to see everything that you've registered for to make sure you've actually registered for everything, this is the brazen link that you're going to use to do that information. Okay, that's going to be where you have your profile, show your account, and everything that you registered for. So make sure you have all of that information. Final thoughts, make sure you register, check your technology, upload your current resume, research, as we talked about. You can you can script some responses. So like if it's like a response for like following up or saying thank you, you're actually able to kind of script it in Brazen and then kind of send it on and edit it. So maybe a little bit faster if you need to do that. Or if you're leaving a note, you can do that. It's a little tricky just because I do like you to have more personalized information, but if you're in a hurry, it can be something that you can use. Watch the clock again, because it does kind of time out. Save that contact information. Again, it'll all be available in your profile, but you want to make sure you can see who you actually talked to in that transcript. And then always keep it professional. So great question. The difference between the Mega Fair and Fall Career Days, Mega Fair is specifically only for business students. So it's companies who are looking to hire different roles within business functions. Fall Career Days is for every single type of job and industry. So there might be businesses there, but there might also be nonprofits there. There may be, government there, and they might be looking for different types of roles than your traditional finance, accounting, supply chain management, and marketing. So there might be people there that are looking for psychology majors. They might be looking for people that are wanting to work in hospitals. And so Fall Career Days is going to be a really large event with everyone across the entire university. And Mega Fair is going to be a smaller event with employers that are only looking at business. I recommend going to both because some employers, if they're hiring for business students, but also IST students or engineering students, they may go to Fall Career Days because then they can target all of you versus just going to business and then also going to Fall Career Days because it does cost them more money. So what I recommend is kind of looking at both lists and researching both so you can identify who you want to talk to at each event. Okay, it doesn't cost you guys money, but it does cost the employers some money to be able to attend. So that's why sometimes I think it's better to go to both and be able to try and talk to all of the employers that you can. Great question. All right. Any other quick questions before we head out? This recording will be available for you. Yep. So we're at the end of the session now. I will probably honestly not be sending it tonight as this is the last thing I'm doing this evening. But I'll be sending it out to everyone that did sign on. So you'll be able to get the whole recording. And how do you check who's coming to Mega Fair? That's going to be on Nittany Lion Careers. You'll be able to see all of the employers coming on Nittany Lion Careers and filter out who's coming for what major and for what job positions. Good question. Anything else I can help answer? All right, if not, I hope you guys have a great night. I'll stay on for just another minute, but if you guys are good to go, please feel free to leave the event, and I hope you guys were able to get something out of it. Thank you.